Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. Sergeant Butterman. The little hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Oh, you started, didn't you?
Of course.
Are we rolling?
I screwed up. Do you want to count us in?
Let's. Yeah, we're still gonna do it.
All right, do it.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Hello.
Where were you?
I was there.
Oh, really? You
Yeah.
cut out on my end.
No,
It sounded
I
like
was
it was
totally
a
there.
solo.
That would be great. In fact, inspiration, I'm going to mute myself in the final track.
Oh, yeah, evil.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Are you, last week's show, how do you feel about it?
Good. Great.
Do you? Do you feel good about it?
You bet.
It was good. It was we were not drinking, which is weird because it sounded like we were. Especially toward the end, there wasn't a lot there. It's like we totally lost the thread.
But we were having a good time.
Is that what that's called? We quoted a lot. I actually ended up cutting some of the quotes because they were. The show was significantly longer than it needed to be. I rarely find myself getting like self-conscious about these things because I put out a lot of drivel. I really do. The bar is pretty low in terms of the drivel factor. In my illustrious podcasting career, I have put out a lot of drivel. So I try not to think about that stuff, but wow. There was just long spaces of silence and then oi, prick. And
oh, that's awesome.
It was
so
good.
Awesome.
Do you see anything?
We're going to have to release like the extended cut.
That's right. This will be the director's cut.
So people can hear all of those little wonderful tidbits.
I only cut mine. I didn't cut any of yours because yours were all good. They were all perfect.
Oh, of course. Of course they were.
Yeah. Have you seen anything that's worth talking about?
Well, I don't know if it's worth talking about. I took my daughter to the Lorax.
Oh, see, I'm supposed to know about that.
You're supposed to know that I saw it? Or
No. I'm just supposed to know about that film. I'm supposed to know some things about that film. I don't. I know it's a Seussical.
Well, it's definitely more a Seussical than Horton Hears a Who was.
You didn't like that, huh?
I didn't like the Lorax. It's very, okay. So there's a few issues I have with it. One, the songs were just horrid. I don't know why they felt like they had to try making it a musical, but it just didn't work. Two, the story that takes place in the present day in Thneedville with Zac Efron and, his family and him wooing this girl was just silly. And it really seemed to kind of distract from the main point of the film, which was the story of the Lorax and the Onceler. But there's so many things about it that just didn't work. And it's small things like, the Onceler, which I think was a great Seuss name for this mysterious character that lives in this, tower. And his name is the Onceler, not because that's his name, but they call him that because something happened once upon a time sort of thing to him. At least that was the impression I always had from the book. But in the movie, no, his name is actually Oncey. That's what his mom calls him.
Are you kidding?
Oncey? No, that's what she calls him, Oncey, because that's his name. And
well, that's a horrible idea.
Oh, it's atrocious. It's like, come on. Use some imagination and really come up with something unique about that idea of him being the Onceler. It's just lots of little things like that. I just didn't care about the whole Zac Efron character. His whole motivation to find the seed to the last tree was just all motivated by a girl, and he just he only seemed to care about the fact that it was the last tree because the story told him that he needed to care. There was really no real motivation behind it. It just the whole thing felt that way. The most interesting part for me was, I think, the Lorax, which surprised me because Danny DeVito, he's either hot or cold for me, and I didn't think I would like him as the Lorax, but he was the one thing that I think I liked. So anyway, that's probably too much talk about the Lorax.
Well, it's a Seussical.
A lot of people like it.
I'd like to know what you where you stand on John Carter.
I don't know where I stand on John Carter. It's one of those movies where I've never been interested ever since I saw the trailers. No trailer has excited me.
Really?
Yeah, they've not excited me at all. But, the last, I think when I took my daughter to Star Wars, they had a trailer and I was like, maybe this would be a fun one to see with her. And then I'm just like, I don't know if it's going to be good for her. She's getting bored through all these, kind of sci-fi adventure films. I just don't think she's really that into it yet. So I don't know if I will see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I think you should see it.
Well, but see, you've got a 5-year-old boy.
No, but I'm, it's a big sci-fi movie. I can't believe you're getting all freaky about a big sci-fi. This is kind of your thing. It's like right in your wheelhouse.
Well, kind of. I mean, it's 49% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It doesn't speak well.
The movie is not out yet.
Yeah, but all the critics have reviewed it. Like, ever since I saw it, it looked just completely silly. And I've always had a hard time buying into the concept. Now, I've never read the book. I have no idea if it's accurate or not, but it just has always looked just kind of silly to me. And it still looks silly. And I have a feeling if I watch it, I'm going to walk out going, ugh, that was really silly.
I don't know what to say. I'm a little depressed. I thought you were going to be in this with me. Like, I'm excited about this movie.
Are you?
I have also not read the book. The book was A Princess of Mars, released in 1917 by the great Edgar Rice Burroughs. And it is, it's one of those, man, it's one of those books that, it's everything else becomes derivative from, some concept in this book, everything that has come since.
Yeah.
And they play that up, I think, a little bit too much. But really, I mean, the book is it's a milestone in some of the sci-fi visioning.
I think they've had to play that up because it looks so silly. I think they're trying to get people excited by going, this is where the ideas for Star Wars came from. They're pumping it so people go, oh, I don't know. I have a feeling that it's going to be a huge bomb.
Oh, man. That's going to make me sad. It's going to make me sad because, mostly because I'm such a fan of Andrew Stanton.
Yeah.
And I want him to really succeed.
Well, and I do too.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, I do.
It doesn't sound like you're on Team Stanton.
I'm on Team Stanton Pixar.
What is that? That's not even a thing. It's Disney now. We've moved on.
He knows how to tell the great Pixar stories, and this, I don't know. I just don't know what to say about it. It just doesn't look exciting to me at all. It looks just so over the top in every way.
All right.
Maybe I'll sneak out and watch it and surprise you. Who knows?
Unreal. This is behind such... there's such good people behind this movie.
I know, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good.
Michael Chabon.
Yeah.
Michael Chabon.
Is that how you say his name?
That's how I say his name.
Chabon.
Chabon. He
Right.
did The Cavalier and Clay. What a great book that was. He wrote this thing.
Yeah.
With what's his nut? Mark Andrews. I don't know Mark Andrews. What has Mark Andrews done? He's done a lot. He did Iron Giant.
Yeah.
He was a storyboard guy. And Star Wars Clone Wars, which I have to tell you, I'm still on the pro side of the Clone Wars, the TV show.
Well,
TV
that's
series.
good.
I need to move on from this because I'm going to get roped into talking more about this movie, and it's not my job to sway you. If you want to be on the wrong side of this argument, that's fine.
I'm on the wrong.
You're on
side
the wrong
of the
side of
force.
history here. And
Let me
okay.
tell you something that will excite you, though.
Do.
Since I just pooped in your lemonade. I'm not even sure if that's appropriate to say.
I don't think grown men say poop.
When you have 5-year-olds,
Okay, all right.
Like all that comes out of your mouth.
There's a window when poop is appropriate.
Yes,
I'll give you that.
and I'm living that window.
Because your son is how old now?
My son is 1.5. My
Yeah, so you've got
daughter's
your daughter's 5. So you've got a few years, but then I want poop excised completely from your.
5. Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. What are you going to tell me?
I started watching The Walking Dead.
Yes, you did. Oh, finally.
I'm only 4 episodes in, but it's good stuff. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I told you I've read all the comics now, and I'm caught up on season 2. Season 2 has some growing pains. I'm not going to lie to you. There's some slow moments, but when it comes back with the fast moments, they're really, really good.
Is season 2 as brief as season 1?
No, I think it's a double. It's 13. I think it's 13 episodes.
Okay, so it's more of a full season.
Yeah.
Do they answer? There was 2 questions that I had that were brought up in so far that I'm a little irritated. I'm not irritated, but I'm hoping that they get answered because they feel like big holes that shouldn't be there. 1, why did nobody else go get all those guns out of the police station? Like, why were they all still sitting in the police station when he went to get them?
Okay.
Has that been answered?
No.
Okay. And 2,
let it go. Let that one go.
I
Okay.
will try.
All right.
And 2, how did he survive living like in a coma in the hospital for so long? Apparently no one taking care of him.
Yep. Okay. That I'm 96% sure that the answer is not going to be satisfying for you.
Oh, but at least they answer it.
But they do talk about it.
Oh, okay.
They do play that out. There's a flashback that comes up where that actually shows how he ended up being left there.
Gotcha.
So stay tuned on that one.
Good. Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's a good show. Anything with zombies is always fun. And
huge fan. I am about ready to kick into Game of Thrones.
That's another one. I'm torn with that one as to whether I should just watch the series or if I should just pick up the books and read them.
Well, I have I have been gunning through I'm about halfway through the book on Audible, and I listened to it on 2.5 speed.
Right.
So it's all very, very fast, and then everybody stops and has sex. and it's really great. I mean, it's fantastic. It's definitely like soap opera for dudes.
Huh. Nice.
It's good. But I just found out, today that it was available in iTunes. And so I'm pretty excited about that. I didn't know. I didn't actually know that season 1 had come out. I guess now that season 2 is either coming or out, they've put season 1 in iTunes. So
gotten it out there. Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that. That's going to be big.
Well, speaking of soap opera for dudes, I suppose we should talk about the movie Hot Fuzz, huh?
Is that what? Oh, that's totally why we're here.
Hey, before we do though,
Sergeant Butterman.
do your spiel.
Yeah, where can people find you? Let's start with that. Where do you want people to find
the Movie Monkey on Twitter?
Where did that come from, the Movie Monkey?
I don't know, actually.
Was it just random characters that happened to land in the right order?
I actually used a Ouija board and I said, what should I use? And the spirit of the Ouija board told me.
The spirit of the Ouija board.
So maybe it's an evil name that I've chosen. I don't know.
Oh, goodness. Maybe it was the spirit of Ralph McQuarrie.
Oh,
I just used his name in vain. That was not cool.
That was sad.
I miss him. Already.
And Robert Sherman.
Yeah.
It was kind of a sad week.
It was a sad week.
Yeah.
Well, they would want us to move on.
Yes, they would.
Make sure you can find me at Pete Wright on the Twitter, and I encourage you to do so. If you're just interested in show updates, you can follow Rash Pixel on Twitter, or do a search for Rash Pixel on Google Plus or Facebook. That's where I end up posting essentially a duplicate of the website. So if your primary channel is Facebook or Google Plus or Twitter, go there and you'll get the links as the shows hit. Let's see. So at Pete Wright, at RashPixel, go to rashpixel.tv for the website, and finally iTunes. Make sure you hit us up in iTunes. Subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. You can search for RashPixel and see all the RashPixel shows, or just movies we like, and jump right to it. Leave us a review if you have an interest. We would love to hear your thoughts, and we love talking about you. When we broadcast. You can also hear our shows on the go while using Stitcher Smart Radio. If you have an iPhone, an iPad, an Android phone, a Kindle Fire, and more on demand on the go, downloading's easy. Go to Stitcher.com and check out your favorite app store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Lovely.
The little hand says it's time to rock and roll. Okay, so we're doing the second in the trilogy.
The second in the 2-film trilogy
of what is it called again? You gave it up.
The Three Flavors Cornetto Trilogy.
So this was the blue cornetto.
This was the blue cornetto. Right.
All right.
Which is yes, cornetto are, like we said last week, are the little drumstick ice creams.
Right.
But this one has the blue ice cream flavor, the original flavor. Blue for the police.
What do you think of this movie?
I love it in so many ways.
Tell me why you love this movie.
This is a movie that this is I think the movie, I should say, that I put in more often than any other movie, just because I can just put it on and I know that if I'm walking around the house doing chores or whatever, any given moment I can catch the screen and just be completely happy that, they had a great line, a great moment, just fantastic bits happening at all times. I love it.
Really?
Yeah.
Man. Okay. I'm going to give this film more credit. You're probably right. And I should watch it more, because I think I really enjoy the film. It's obviously a film I like, and I like talking about it. I am surprised to hear you watch it like that.
It's just so easy. It's so easy to watch.
It is easy to watch.
But yes, it does get a little fat around the middle.
But then the guy's head explodes.
Yeah, there's just so many great things happening in the movie. Oh, and it's just constantly there's lines. There are so many references to just so many other films, and all of the cliches that they so willingly glom onto to pay homage to all those fantastic cliches through countless action films from the 80s, 90s, whenever. And I have a list of cliches that I wrote while I watched it, and I'm going to read them at some point before we're done here.
Oh, I really, and I'm sure I speak for everyone listening, we all look forward to that.
Yes.
Here's the thing. So this movie did very well, 91% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 81 out of 100 on Metacritic. It's people seem to like this movie. Came out in 2007.
Yeah, it did well at the box office. It domestically it made just under 24 million, worldwide 80 million or so.
Yeah. And
then on DVD, I think it grossed another like 33 million or something. So it did good for itself on a budget of 16 million.
And it's all the same lot. Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright directing. And Simon Pegg joining him to write. Simon Pegg in the starring role of Nicholas Angel.
Nick Frost.
Nick Frost, who this is in one of my favorite passages in the Wikipedia write-up. To prepare for their roles in the film, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost had to follow certain requirements. Pegg's contract stated that he had to adopt a strict diet and use 3 personal trainers to prepare him for the physically demanding scenes in the film. Frost was asked by Wright and Pegg to watch around 20 action films to warm him up for his role as a police officer, but he decided to only watch Bad Boys 2.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love
so
that.
Awesome.
It is so perfect. And, from the way I understand from, researching the film, it looks like that they came up with a list of over 140 films that they watched and researched for dialogue and tone. All of the greatest police action films are on the list.
Yeah, everything from Point Blank, Point Break, Bad Boys 2, Kung Fu, Man on Fire, the Lethal Weapon series, the Die Hard series, the Dirty Harry series, Miami Vice, Silent Rage, The Wicker Man. I mean, it's endless, the number of films they watched. And then directors, like all the directors they're paying homage to, like Tony Scott, John Woo, Quentin Tarantino, Michael Bay, Joel Silver, producer Jerry Bruckheimer, Brian De Palma, Dario Argento, Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, it's insane.
But mostly Jerry Bruckheimer and Michael Bay.
Richard Donner. Yeah.
And Richard Donner.
Well, Tony Scott, actually, I think is one that they reference all the time.
It really does for police action movies what Shaun of the Dead did for zombie horror romance movies.
It's, people, I think some people call this a parody or a spoof of the cop action movies, but I think that is completely incorrect, because a parody or a spoof, is really people who are looking outside of a genre, making fun of it and making fun of all of those, the cliches and the things that you expect, like the Scary Movie series, which was kind of spoofing every horror movie there was. However, an homage is a film that's really more paying respect to all of those films. And these are fans of these films. They're not making fun of them. Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, everybody involved love these films as cheesy as they are. They love that cheese, and they are doing everything they can to make exactly like a perfect homage to all of those films. I mean, it's genius. I love it.
I think that might be where I started having trouble with the movie. Like, and this is, I absolutely acknowledge that it's the result of knowing that I'm going to sit down and talk to you and have to somehow talk to you seriously about this movie. That I think about it at this level. Before I started thinking about it, I really liked it. And then I started thinking about it. And that's the problem is these characters, the actors who are playing these characters, in particularly Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, they're not, Will Smith and, what's his name?
Martin Lawrence?
Yeah, they're not Will Smith and Martin Lawrence.
No.
They don't, I love Bad Boys. I love Bad Boys. What you gonna do? I love those movies. But it's just like, sometimes I totally buy Simon Pegg as a badass police officer. And sometimes I feel like he's lampooning the genre. It goes back and forth. Most of the time I really like it. But sometimes I feel like that might be why I'm a little bit lukewarm on the movie. But one of the things you can't really argue, I feel like you can't really argue, is that these guys, like you say, are fans, that they were invested in this, the action police buddy movie genre. I mean, they were in it. But they were in it so much that it felt like they were in it like 13-year-olds in the backyard.
Well, but I guess what we have to also acknowledge is, while they're paying an homage to these films, they're also making a comedy.
Yes.
Just like they did with Shaun of the Dead.
Well, and that's where it really works, right?
Yeah, it's the homage, yet it's a comedic homage to them.
There is a lot of funny in this movie. And just when you are getting in the swing of the funny, something really horrific happens. Right. Something that is just
over the
nauseating.
Top horrific.
Over the top horrific.
Yeah.
I think the first bit of horrificness comes at right about 38 minutes. Let me scrub to that.
I think you're about right.
What do you,
theater.
Yeah. So give me some sense of your, what's your take on the general sort of tone of the horrificness? How does it work to support this comedy?
I mean, I think it's exactly I mean, it definitely is over the top. It's very bloody, very gory. I mean, a lot of heads are removed from their bodies in one way or another. Well, I guess, two or three heads maybe, but a lot of people die horrific ways in this film. But it's all done in such a over the top way. I mean, just ridiculous amounts of blood. The deaths themselves are so, kind of just big that it doesn't end up being like you're watching Saw, like you're watching, torture porn. It's done in a very over the top. Yes, it's very bloody, but it still has kind of a humor to it. At least I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think if you're going to make a movie like this and you're going to try to be funny, you have to go over the top with the gore.
Yeah.
To actually make it fit at all. It's that ends up, I think, working really well. It's just when you sort of need that emotional bump.
Yeah.
I think it's paced very, very well. So that first one is the theater where we lose the heads of the actor and his mistress with the horrible laugh.
Oh, that's great.
I'm trying to think what the second one is. What? Goodness.
The second one is the.
Did you just get a call? Is that the thing? Somebody trying to get a hold of you?
My phone is just telling me I got a text or something. I don't know. The second one is the.
It's the head popping on the church at the church.
Is that the second one? I thought the second one was the big house, the guy with the big house who gets blown up.
Oh yeah, the drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It is, and that happens actually only about 10 minutes later.
Right.
And then 10 minutes after that, we have my favorite one. So this is where the
head
steeple is pushed off the top of the church, and that's literally another 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
That's remarkably well paced.
It is. It's great. It's fantastic.
And so it falls off and it literally, you have to, when you watch this, you have to frame by frame it. Because watching the amount of blood that comes out of this poor chap's head is stunning. It's like it's actually raining blood. And they do actually, we've talked about this idea of breaking the fourth wall with gore before. Yeah. What was the movie? Was one of the
was it?
It was Raiders. One of the Raiders. It was it was the termite scene or the ant, the killer
crystal
ant
skull.
scene. Crystal skull, where they broke the fourth wall, and you got all feisty about that. You didn't like that a bit. But here they do it. This is the one scene they do it where you actually get the blood on the lens.
I don't think this is the one scene. I think they do it multiple times.
I don't think so.
Well,
where? I'm looking. I'm scrubbing.
You scrub away.
Best part
I
is
think it does break the fourth wall, but it's because of the overtop nature of the whole thing. It totally works. I don't have a problem with it. Crystal skull. It's like, why were they breaking the fourth wall with these?
You don't think they were justified?
No, it wasn't ants over the top like this one.
This one is perfect, and then it's like punctuation on top of that scene as all the police are strategizing about what they need to do because it's a murder scene, and one of them, they're all dressed in like frontier days Western wear, except for the one guy who has actually dressed as Spider-Man,
right,
with the Spider-Man face paint.
That's so awesome.
It is really brilliant. Okay, so what else do we know about this movie, about the making of this film? Where do you want to go from here?
Where do we?
Well, the casting is actually great.
Let's talk about the casting. Casting is impeccable in this, especially if you know British film and British film history, and you have a sense as to who a lot of these people are, because there's a lot of like powerhouse British people in it.
You want to say, and that was the problem I had. You want to say, like, how did they get him and
right?
And if you don't actually know, if you aren't familiar with British film, it's hard to make that comparison. The one that immediately jumps out to me is Jim Broadbent. who, as I understand it, said, he actually was such a fan of Shaun of the Dead that he actually called Edgar Wright and said, "I'd like to be in this movie." Mm-hmm. He's fantastic as the great Inspector Frank Butterman.
Yeah.
Who else stands out to you?
Well, you can go down the list. I mean, Paddy Considine as one of the Andys. I mean, he's one of my favorites. Ever since In America, I've always loved him. But then, let's take it chunk by chunk. So, talking about the Metropolitan Police Service, you got Martin Freeman, Steve Coogan, Bill Nye, and then surprise cameo of Cate Blanchett in there.
Cate Blanchett as the SOCO, scene of the crime officer,
who remains masked the entire time.
Yes. Well, and Peter Jackson.
Well, and Peter Jackson as Father
Santa.
Christmas, Santa, stabbing him in the hand in his little tiny cameo. It's just fantastic. So some good cameos. So that's great. And then you have people living in town like Stephen Merchant, who's works with Ricky Gervais on all of the like The Office, and he actually also starred in Extras as his manager.
He's one of my very favorite comic actors.
I just always think of him and that little pen with the little naked lady, and when you turn it over, that's the one thing that I always picture with him for some reason. And then he gives it to Robert De Niro or something. It's just so silly. Oh my goodness. And then most importantly, you've got the Neighborhood Watch Alliance, headed up by none other than the Daltonator.
Oh, Tim.
Is he just not the best?
He is fantastic. Timothy Dalton.
Can I just say, Mr. Pricklepants?
Oh.
Good old Timothy Dalton. I just love him. He's great in everything he does.
Well, and interestingly, it was this was a part that was written for him before they knew they could do it. Yeah. He ends up being perfect and doesn't die.
No, and that's one of the best things about that ending is it's just so horrific. It's just I just walk out of there in so much pain after watching him and his spill at the end.
It is. It's one of the most painful ways to see anybody suffer, and to hear him speak. If you haven't seen the movie, you really should, because really it's sort of pointless to even have this conversation. Yeah. But he falls on a miniature steeple, a steeple of a miniature version of the cathedral in town, and the spire of this of the cathedral actually goes up through his chin, through his jaw and out his mouth, and so he's left with this horrific underbite. And this giant 6-inch spike sticking out of his mouth, like a tusk, and he's impaled on it. And this really hurts. It's one of the most terrible things to watch a former 007 have to deal with.
But it's just great.
I don't care what you thought of the Living Daylights. That's no way to treat a 007.
Oh my God, isn't he perfect in this? Like from the moment he appears, he's like, "Arrest me!" Say, "Arrest me! I'm a slasher.
I'm a slasher."
Slasher of prices. Oh, he's so over the top, and him with that mustache is it's just fantastic. I love it. So you can't get enough of him. And then you've got Edward Woodward, who was in The Wicker Man, also in Breaker Morant, which is a great Australian film, and he was in The Equalizer. Do you remember that show?
Of course I do. Are you kidding?
So that's Edward Woodward. Then you have Billy Whitelaw, who is the fascist. That's her from that scene, which is just always great. Oh.
By the way, it's fascism.
That's right. But she was in The Omen. She was the nanny.
Oh, right.
She was the nanny in The Omen, and she was in Twisted Nerve, that movie that I guess kind of had a resurgence of note when Kill Bill came out because of that whistling that what's her name? Daryl Hannah does in the hall as she's going in. The music by Edward Herman, not Edward Herman. That's the actor Bernard Herman. The that little whistling tune.
Mm-hmm.
That's Twisted Nerve, and so that's kind of the little bit about that. But anyway, just going down the list, like Stuart Wilson is in it. He was in he's always like a great bad guy. He was in Lethal Weapon 3 as the bad guy in that. Mask of Zorro, and just all these great guys. And did you notice there's Peter White?
Yes, believe me, I noticed.
Yes, of course you noticed that. So
yeah, Peter White, but I had not actually Peter White. No, I didn't really recognize Peter White when I saw this one. I should now.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
Pride and Prejudice, but he was in Babel.
He's been in a few of Mike Leigh's films.
Yeah.
So, he's out there. He's not as known as some of those other ones. But anyway, it's a fantastic cast. It's just a group of wonderful, wonderful people to be in this film and just really make a great, great cop story and a great group of villains.
Yes, truly. When you first, I feel like we need to just remind folks of the concept, because you can kind of get lost in the mystery of the murders and the gore and the funny and not remember what the movie's actually about. So the whole concept is that this the Neighborhood Watch Alliance, they actually run it's sort of a cult where they get together around a giant stone table and wear dark robes. And what they end up doing is anybody who makes trouble in the town, rather than report it as a crime, they kill the perpetrator and stash their body in a mass grave.
And call it an accident.
And they call it an accident. That's right.
All because they want to remain the best village.
That's right. The best village, with the lowest crime rate. It's for the greater good.
Yes,
it's all for the greater good.
The greater good.
But when he first, when Nick Angel first, sort of rounds the corner behind the garden where the table is, and is watching them, and they come to order, and the first order of business is to talk about, some banal neighborhood baby naming kind of gossip,
which were named after the lead characters in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, I didn't.
The two babies.
I didn't even catch that.
Roger and Martin.
That's fantastic.
So yeah.
See, I didn't even catch that. I thought it was Roger Moore that they were talking about.
Yeah, no, it's
and Martin Lawrence. Enough out of me. Okay, so there's we're finished talking about the Neighborhood Watch Alliance cast, but then the Metropolitan Police Service. We already talked about Martin Freeman, the great Martin Freeman, and Bill Nye again. We talked about him last week with Shaun of the Dead. He's terrific in this one.
And
one of the things I love, the scene in the beginning where he says, "Can I talk to the inspector?" And the way they do, the way they cut those transitions with the phone, picking up the phone to them sliding into the desk is brilliant. Yeah. It's brilliant. And that's one of the things that I think is interesting about this movie and the way it was edited. And I'm sort of skipping the Stanford residence, but the way it was cut, the way they chose to pass time, right? There were a lot of opportunities in this movie to get long-winded about the passage of time.
Right.
And they did it again with that same style of rapid fire kind of, a few quick cuts to show, whole days go by and suddenly move you from one point to another. Mm-hmm. They do that really artfully well.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, even in Shaun of the Dead, Edgar Wright just really has it down as far as doing those series of shots to get something happening, like the train journey from London to
Sanford,
where you just watch the phone bars disappearing. Just that whole series, which lasts, I don't know, probably 10, 20 seconds, is over so quickly. But you get a sense as to, oh, he's going from the city to the country. He's going from cell phone service to no
Right.
service. You really get that all so well in that montage.
And it's all just a selection of cuts of him with his flower,
his Japanese peace
lily, and his bag. And he's either on a train depot, or he's in a taxi, or he's in the thing. But these clips are, barely a second, and you end up, moving through time and space really effectively.
He does, yeah. It is very kind of Tony Scott action movie style, all of it. And it's normally, like we talked about in Shaun of the Dead, it's the sort of thing you see when they're like getting their weapons ready, and something is that kind of preparation montage. But it's in his films, he does it in such normally tedious situations that he makes them very invigorating and fun to watch.
Well, that's right, because it's not just, you're right. I mean, it really isn't whatever you're watching the montage of, it's not just about moving from one location to another, right? I mean, really, there is a function to when he applies this technique. And something, when I think of Enemy of the State, for example, which was a film I quite liked of Tony Scott.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of these really fast kind of computer Jiggly Monkey kind of clips to kind of take the place of another sort of time and space montage, but really it's just a way to see the character running from the POV of a satellite.
I think we're going to start calling those Jiggly Monkeys.
Okay.
I think that you just named it.
Consider it
Jiggly
coined.
Monkey.
He did a Jiggly Monkey. All right. So make a note. Jiggly Monkey stands for Tony Scott. Transitions.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's like the montage without a montage.
Yeah, it's just beautiful
You need
stuff.
a montage. Do you remember that movie? What was that from?
I don't know.
Are you kidding? Team America World Police?
Oh, yes.
They do a whole song that is a montage about a montage. All right. So go ahead. What else did you want to talk about this movie?
Well, should we jump into cliches? Do you want to talk all those lovely cliches?
All right.
I'm doing it, man.
Let's do it. No,
you earned all of these down.
You earned it.
Now, to be fair, I kind of stole all of these off of the DVD because it lists them for me. But I still took the time to write them myself. And actually, they stole them. They found all these cliches. Like Roger Ebert has this whole thing. It's like, all of the cliches that movies that you can find in any movie. Like he's created this whole thing. You can go to his blog and you can read it. You can add cliches to it, all that sort of stuff. They went through and they found all the cliches for action films. And they made sure that they found a way to include as many of them as they could. And so let's just start, shall we?
I look forward to it. Bring it.
It's fun. Rain. Okay. All right. So
is this where it starts?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out. I did it all out of order here. Okay, so when a character has important information to impart, but arranges to do so at a later time, they will die before they get to reveal that information.
Meet me behind the church, 3:00.
3:00. And actually, that one is followed immediately by another cliche, and that is anytime someone steps up to a microphone, there will always be feedback. Always, always, always. The amiable police chief.
He's going to be the bad guy. When you have an
amiable police chief, he'll always end up being a bad guy. The ratio of bullets to hit, or the ratio of bullets to hits, is very high. that they hardly ever actually hit anything. That's pretty obvious in an action movie. The pithy, there's always going to be a pithy pun when the villain is dispatched, or in this case, since they're not saying them, they actually talk about them. He's like, when he talks about smashing him over the head with his peace lily, and he said, "Playtime's over."
Yeah. What was so great about that one is, though, he's always talking about them in the past tense. He always makes reference. He says, "Oh, did you fire your gun up in the air and yell, ah? No, but I did do this other thing."
No, it's because he knocked him into the freezer. He's like, "Oh, did you say something cool like
chill
cool
out
off
or cool off?" Yeah.
He's like, yeah. Oh, it's just great stuff. Okay, so in an action film, even though they have all these weapons, you'll always end up having a mano-a-mano fight, right?
Yep. Every time.
That's for every time. The major baddie is never defeated just once. They'll always come back.
Right.
Impaling in itself is a cliche. You see it in lots of action films.
This was a good one. Yeah.
The final boom shot when the camera, you're in the town, and at the end of the film, the camera booms up over the city. You see that. In this one, it's actually done before the ending, but it's over when he defeats Timothy Dalton in the model village. The camera booms up over the model village,
right?
Yeah. And when somebody says it's over, it's never over. when the moment, the monster tactics of when somebody's escaping, when you've established these creatures or some animals or whatever it is in the city, when somebody's escaping at the end, there's always going to be an "it's behind you" moment of monster tactics, and that comes up with the swan in the back seat here, right?
Which is perfect.
Yeah. And then just things like, you're always going to have a shot in an action movie where it's a slow-mo, you've got those dramatic low angles, the wind is whipping your characters, you've got a helicopter flying over their heads. That was a fantastic Bad Boys cut. It's a great shot.
I noticed you haven't yet included outrunning explosions, but does it really count?
I haven't gotten to the explosions yet.
Oh, okay. Good.
I'm kind of jumping all over the place.
Okay.
I'll come to that one.
All right.
A character who is always resistant to change their locale at the beginning of the story, by the end of it, will have succumbed to the new locale and will now want to stay.
We're going to need you to come back because our statistics have gotten rather squishy.
I think he says squiffy.
Squiffy? Is that what he says? Man,
I think it's squiffy.
All right.
Okay. There's always going to be a bonus baddie sequence, where the character that you forgot about returns for vengeance. In this case, it's the guy sitting up in the little video booth up in the police station. Right. Just like Die Hard. There's always going to be one of your heroes is always going to take a bullet to protect someone.
Oh, yeah. That's the heroic sacrifice.
And which, is a part of another cliche. Anytime a character is given an object to put in their pocket, that object will always be the thing that ends up saving their life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Here, now we're getting to the explosions. Any bomb that's featured has to go off.
Well, yes.
And all major characters can somehow miraculously survive a major explosion. Also dogs and any other lovable animals like the hedgehog
that is swirling around at the end. Now, is this a variant of the Hitchcock gun on the mantelpiece?
I don't know what that is.
That was a Hitchcock thing, right? Where he says, if you introduce a gun on the mantle in Act 1, by Act 3, somebody better get shot.
Yeah, right. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's how the thing with the bomb is. Especially when it's a sea mine.
Yeah.
You got to blow it up.
A sea mine that they keep kicking over and over again. Okay.
And then you've got the research cliche. You've always got like the big research montage. They're trying to uncover information, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then last one, and I may have covered this one, character who realistically, this is in reference to the good guy. The character who realistically should have been dead is always brought back in the final scene.
Oh, yes.
Where, just like, Danny Butterman, we think, he should have been dead because he took the shot for Nick Angel. But, they trick you at the end, and yet he's still alive. Just like they do in like LA Confidential or things like that.
Right.
So there's a big old list of cliches.
Let's see. So we didn't have any, there was no reason at any point to hide a body.
No.
All right. So that was not one. But there was some yelling while shooting. That's one I think that's important.
They
call that one out.
They call out some very specific cliches like screaming while they're shooting up in the air, diving through the air, shooting two guns.
Yeah.
It's like all those other great cliches that they use so well. And that's why I think I love the movie so much, is because they're not just using the cliches to make an over-the-top action movie. They're using the cliches to point out the cliches in all the other over-the-top action movies, but doing it in such a loving way that you just can't help but love the fact that they're doing it.
How does this movie hold up in 10 years? It was made in 2007. Where do we stand? Let's just say, where do we stand in 2020?
I think I'll still love it. I just can't. I can't stop watching it. It's the one that I always will put in.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's funnier now that we've talked about it.
Yeah, it's so funny.
You know why? You know what it satisfies for me? Scooby-Doo. It's a Scooby-Doo adventure, complete with the hooded, cloaked villains.
Right. Yeah. And it does kind of have that feel of like pulling off the mask to reveal different bad guys,
Totally. No, it's good. It's a great movie. It's totally worthy of being on our list of movies we like. Closing thoughts? What do you have to add?
I mean, I think I pretty much have covered it. I mean, it's just, for me, it was just so much fun to watch, and I've just loved it all the time. I've always loved it. It's just great. I was flipping through my notes, and I saw a funny little note here. They picked a couple names for their police officers, particularly Andy, which is, I guess, why I wrote this note down. There's actually a disproportionate number of officers, like real police officers in England, who are named Andy. Isn't that strange?
That is, well, it's totally appropriate. You could have been a police officer.
I guess if I grew up in England, maybe I would have had a totally different career.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to add, I did start watching Spaced this week. We didn't talk about this in the beginning, but Spaced was the sitcom that was that all these guys really came from.
Right.
And it takes a little while to get into it, and then it's sort of hard to put down. It's very funny. But some of the jokes I feel like I don't get just because I'm not a Brit. It's really pretty hardcore.
Gotcha.
But very funny, and there's just, it's very emotional. Simon Pegg is great.
Yeah.
So as always, I can't wait for the next Star Trek. I think his Scotty is legendary already.
Well, and he was great in Mission Impossible, like 3 and 4. He was fantastic. I'm glad his role was boosted up quite a bit in the 4th one.
Oh my gosh. See, Now I haven't seen the 4th one yet.
Oh, so good.
And I had forgotten that he was actually in 3. This makes me want to go watch 3 again.
Yeah, those are the only 2 worth watching.
That's not even true.
It's so true.
It's just that the first one, well, the second one is not worth watching. The first one is now vintage. Which means it's in its awkward stage of aging.
It's Brian De Palma.
It is.
I give it that. There are a lot of good qualities about it. So,
but there's a lot not to like about that Brian De Palma.
He's had his stinkers, but he is always trying to do something interesting with his films.
Is that what they call that? Is that what that's? All right. Are we coming clean with what we're doing next week?
I don't know,
because there's no third Cornetto movie. That'll have to come later.
That's right. It will. Hey, random tidbit of information.
All right.
Did you know that they adapted Point Break into an off-Broadway show?
I did not know that.
It was titled Point Break Live, where every night a new Johnny Utah was picked from the audience and given cue cards to read.
That is so good. That is so good. Are you kidding?
Oh, isn't that awesome?
I did not know that.
I know.
Oh, the world of things I don't know.
I really would love to go see that. I don't know if it's still running.
You could have pulled off Johnny Utah. They were trying to make it what's it called? What's the other kind of live show from a movie that is with the sweet transvestite? Rocky Horror.
Kind of Rocky Horror type of thing.
Rocky Horror thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need some musical numbers to pull that off.
You do. And Point Break, the musical live show with a guest playing Johnny Utah, doesn't quite do it as well. It gets long trying to explain that.
Yeah, it does. It's a little tricky.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a real treat. We're not going to come clean about what comes next.
Nope.
People can guess.
It'll be a surprise.
It'll be a surprise. And man, good talk. I'll catch
yes,
you,
indeed. Yes, indeed, sir.
Catch you next week.
All right. Bring in the fuzz.
Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete. And to be honest, it's a lot of work too. But it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us, even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page, where we've listed every movie that we've talked about, paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on The Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series, because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club,
to our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support The Next Reel and our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we've put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?